Hello, hello, hello. This is Talking Manchester United, a United Stand podcast with myself, Paul Gardner. And joining me, as always, is Ash Burns. Ash, how are you, my friend?
Yes, I'm not bad, thank you, mate. Last game of the season I've come in. Finally get this absolute shower of garbage behind us. Yeah, I can't wait. How about yourself?
Exactly the same, mate. Last game of the season. Can't wait for it to be over with. I think you've been saying that for probably about 4 or 5 weeks now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's against Cardiff. But before we go into that, we do have a guest with us, Martin Peart. Martin, how are you, my friend?
Good evening. Yep, good. Can't wait for this season to end. Bring it on.
The rest of us. Yep. So for everyone listening, we will talk briefly about the Huddersfield game. Plenty of other stuff as well. Obviously, we're going to preview the Huddersfield game, the Cardiff game. We will talk about the unfollow Man United movement that's gained a bit of pace over the last few days. We will discuss the rumours of the potential director of football. And also we put a tweet out a few days ago regarding sixth place and whether or not you would have accepted it or if it was given to you when Ollie first took over. We'll talk about that as well and read out your replies. And then obviously right at the very end, we will, as usual, we will read out your tweets and discuss them. So let's crack on then. Let's dive straight into the Huddersfield game. Martin, you're our guest, so I'll come to you first of all. A game we needed to win to keep our top four hopes alive. Instead, we've been confined to the UEFA Europa League. What were your thoughts during and after that game?
Started brightly, 15 minutes, got the early goal, and then just it was like the players gave up. It was like deja vu. I think it's what we've seen for the past 3 or 4 weeks. For me, the season's been
months.
over for months. Yeah, it's been over for a while. But that game was just it was putrid to watch. It was just awful. We've seen a lot of games this season where you can argue that the tactics have been wrong, or when Jose was in, the players weren't even playing for themselves. It was just awful. The less talked about that game, the better. And I think everyone at the end of that game was just waiting for the season to end. I mean, the Cardiff game, which we'll get onto later on, is if he's going to play the same starting lineup, I don't even think I'm going to bother watching, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be feeling the same. Ash, what were your thoughts? I mean, the lineup was, for me at least anyway, almost as I expected. We had Sanchez and Mata starting, which were two players that I thought would start and that I thought should start, really. What were your thoughts on the game?
Terrible.
And that's that. Moving on.
As Martin said, we started fairly decently in the first sort of 10 minutes or so. Got the goal. It was 8 minutes in, I think. Bit of a sloppy decision from the goalkeeper to try and go with his feet. Completely missed it. And we go 1-0 up. And from then you're thinking, well, do you know what? We've got a nice early goal. Earlier in the season, we saw us get an early goal and then go on to dominate the game. But as Martin said, we just sort of gave up. We just sort of said, well, we've got the goal now. Let's just sit back. As I said, season's over. Let's just try and see this one out. Not too much work being done. And Huddersfield got back at us. And yeah, it was just ridiculous, to be honest. The level of performances that we keep putting in week in, week out is disgusting, to be honest. Very, very few players on the pitch deserve to wear the shirt. And I'm probably with you there. And if we do end up seeing these same players, lining up game after game next season, it's not going to be very appealing to watch. So yeah, I was very disappointed. Again, not just with individuals, but as a collective. I just thought we didn't look very cohesive going forward. Too many sloppy errors, not enough urgency, and it was just one of those end of season, nothing to play for performances.
Now, Anthony Martial was apparently injured for that game, which is why he wasn't even in the matchday squad. But Herrera and Smalling didn't start. Any of you have any ideas of what was going on there? Because you would think that, if Herrera's fit, he plays. If Smalling's fit, he plays over Jones.
I think Smalling was coming off the back of a knock.
Right.
I think he's fit for this one, for the Cardiff game. I don't know anything about Herrera, I'm not sure, but I think Smalling did have a little niggling injury. That's why he didn't start.
Okay,
fair
enough.
When was the last time we played like the same 11? We played the same 11 in the first couple of games of Ollie, and then we got some injuries, and then he's sort of tinkered around quite a lot. So I don't think anyone can really name. I don't think you could name the squad if he wasn't going to play in the youth on the weekend. I don't think any of us could name the squad he's going to play on the weekend.
No, I think so we had a very familiar starting 11 through that good run we had, and then as you quite rightly say, the injuries came, and we discussed this. I wouldn't say at great length, but we did discuss it a little bit last week about one of the topics was where did it all go wrong, and I think what in my head at least anyway, once all those injuries happened, that's when the poor form started, and then obviously the players are coming back at different times. Do you see what I mean? So it's not like they all came back together and they picked up where they left off. They come back gradually. The performances still weren't there. By the time someone else came back from injury, the team was already down. Do you know what I mean? The morale was gone, and I don't know. I just think it was more to do with the fact that the players will come back at different times, just sort of ruin that chemistry that group of 11 players had for quite a while. But look, that Huddersfield game for me. I mean, we've seen a lot of bad performances from United over the last few months, well, over the last 6 years, you could say.
Yeah.
But this season, at least under Ollie, for me, that was the worst performance I've seen from United. I don't know about you, Martin. I don't know if you agree with that, or if you can think of a performance that was worse than that.
I think there was a game that Moyes, when Moyes was under us, that was pretty bad. But yeah, I think at least they were trying in that game, but the Huddersfield game, so many poor performances, so many players just not playing for the badge. It's our last shot at getting top four, and I didn't see any desire in that second half. It was just waiting for the inevitable to happen. We were just waiting for that goal to go in. I could have called it at half time that we would have sort of sunk back. The chemistry in the team is just gone, and we talk about players who are a bad influence in that team, and there is you can clearly see it, because when certain players are playing really well and want to play well, they influence the team to play well, and when they're just not at it, it just you can just see it in there. We are crying out for some old school. And like an old school type captain just to kick some of these players up the arse. It is one of the worst games that I've seen, and I dare to think what we're going to see this weekend coming.
Well, hopefully not that. Yeah. Ash, what are your thoughts? I mean, can you think of a worse performance? Let's just say under Ollie, for example, other than that Huddersfield. But now, for me, the reason I'm thinking, the reason it's the worst for me is when you look at when you consider Huddersfield as the opposition.
Yeah,
I got a couple of stats here. 4 points from the last 23 games.
Yeah.
Right. Not only that, I don't know if he was a striker or midfielder, but their goal scorer, Isaac Mbenza, I think he's on loan from a Belgian team. I think that was his first goal this season. in 23 games, that's his first goal.
Yeah.
And it gets worse, right? Before Huddersfield played Man United, they had the worst home goals scored record in Premier League history. Okay. Man City hold that record of 10 goals under Stuart Pearce. Huddersfield, before they came into that game against Man United, has only scored 9 goals at home this season. So there we go. They escaped having that record against Man United.
Yeah.
Of course. Records are being broken left, right, and centre with Man United over the last 6 years, all for the wrong reasons. So when you consider all those points, especially the 4 points in 23 games, and the fact that they're already relegated, and we couldn't score more than 1 goal past them, they've been conceding an average of 3 goals a game recently. That, for me, is why that was the worst performance. Can you top that?
Well, wasn't it the last time they picked up points or something like the 26th of February or something like that?
About 8 weeks ago, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, as you said, they'd amassed 14 points in the league before that game. 14 points out of 36 games. And it's exactly you could argue we scored, we did create a few chances, and you could look at other games where we didn't really do anything. But yeah, you're absolutely right. In terms of opposition, in terms of occasion and everything that surrounds it, it's got to be probably the worst performance under Ollie. yeah, it was disgraceful. And like Martin said, certain individuals, we do really need an old school leader, because it's going to be difficult though, whatever we do, because there's no one in that squad that can lead that team at all. It's going to have to come from outside, and it's going to be a little bit difficult to bring someone in, I suppose, straight away and then give them all of that responsibility. Don't get me wrong, it's not impossible, but to maybe bring someone in and give them all that responsibility of not captaining. I don't say someone to come in and be captain straight away, but need to be that sort of level of consistency and enthusiasm, I suppose, for every game. It's going to be difficult, but it's certainly something we need, because it's just every single player in that team, bar maybe one or two, they just lack everything. They just lack composure. They lack energy. They lack any sort of passion or drive. And it's just absolutely poles apart when you look at the other teams above us in the league and below us, I suppose, in the league at the moment. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I'm just glad to get it over with.
And another reason as well why I think that was the worst game under Ollie is the fact that David De Gea was even a candidate for man of the match.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's been a candidate for man of the match for many games for United, but you don't expect it against a team like that when you consider where they are in the league and the fact that they're already relegated. The fact that he was even a candidate for man of the match just goes to show how poor we were. And not to discredit him in any way, but Scott McTominay, I think, was the man of the match.
He was.
Standout performer. Again, not the first time in a United shirt. He's been a standout performer. And he's not even a quality player that you consider that to be a first team regular in the United squad. So the fact that he's quite often been a standout player for us recently, again, just rings alarm bells. I mean, fair play to him. The goal he scored for me, I thought was great. Not the fact that it wasn't a great stunning goal, but the fact that he actually took a shot. So many times we're just faffing around with it on the edge of the box, trying to look for that little cute little 1-2 or cute little through ball. And it just, when he took that shot and it went in, the first thing I thought of was that little clip of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer taking a training session with FC Mulder. Yeah, exactly. That's it. When you know what I mean? He said, "Don't shoot, you don't score."
Yep.
And Scott McTominay was like, "Sod this, I'm having a shot and scored. And look what happens." If we did that just a few more times in the game, we might get 1 or 2 more goals. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Credit to Pogba as well, because he had a few shots. He hit the bar twice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But let's move away from Huddersfield. Let's talk about the 6th place tweet we put out. Ash, do you want to read out that tweet and the replies?
Yeah, so the tweet went out on the 5th. Considering where we were when Ollie took over in December, would you have taken 6th place if it was given to us? Yeah. And I think most of the replies have gone the way that I expect them to, in the sense that there seems to be this general consensus. I think we spoke about this. I can't remember if we spoke about it on in the podcast, or was it after the podcast or prior to one, I'm not sure. But we said that a lot of these replies, I think Mr. Southwick, he did mention it. I think Jake, NFC Jake Darts, Gregor Peary, I think his name is, he said it as well. A lot of them saying that we don't want to be in 6th place. We want to be out of the Europa League. We want to concentrate on the league, which is surprising, because for me, I see it as a positive being in the Europa League, regardless of whether this is, it'll hinder our progress in the league, blah, 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 blah. Well, Manchester United, we want to be playing as many games as possible throughout the season to either bed in youngsters, get more experience, get games under our belt, and obviously provide entertainment for the fans. Granted, we've not had a lot of that this season, but it's still there to be seen. So I never really understand when people say they don't want to see it. And like we discussed, and you said the other week when we said that they don't want to be in the Europa League to disrupt the season, but they want to be in the Champions League. You know what I mean? Which is exactly the same, which is an odd one. But yeah, that seems to be the general consensus throughout a lot of them. Another couple of replies. Sam praised Shaka. We had opportunities. Our players are weak, not world class, and we need world class players to compete with Liverpool, Man City, Barca, blah 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 blah. Ike Aguala, he brought back positivity and belief, but we still came up short. The squad wasn't good then, and it's finally showed now. And I think I discussed this. as well. Was it last week or the week before? I said that the fact that Ole's done almost too good a job when he first came in. No one expected us to finish in the top 4, and the fact that we had it really on a plate for ourselves and we let it slip away from us is more painful, I think, than losing it in the first place, because we didn't expect to get there. We ended up getting so close and we still fell at the final hurdle. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from on that one. I'm going to stop talking.
I guess when the tweet went out, I mean, when we think back to when Ole took over, I think we were in 6th at that point. But we were 11, 12 points off the top 4 halfway through the season, and it was looking like an impossible task. So when Ole came in, the general consensus amongst the fans, Martin, if you disagree, please feel free to chime in. But for me, at least, the general consensus among fans was that all we need to do is just, get some familiarity back into the club, get the players playing football again, enjoying themselves, bring the youth through, give them some more opportunities, and just try to rebuild ourselves again, and not necessarily focus on finishing in the top 4 because it's going to be out of reach. So that's why I put it in the tweet. Considering where we were when Ole took over, would you have taken 6th place? Now, for me, I'd be thinking, yeah, absolutely, because if we're going to be bringing in youth and just trying to figure out where we are, we could. It's possible that we could end up dropping a couple more places. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I was thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, absolutely, I would have taken 6th, because that means that we've not got any worse. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think anybody thought we would get any better, but apparently 65% of people were like, no. But like you said, Ash, it could be because people didn't want to be in the Europa League.
Yeah.
I think what's strange is, obviously I totally agree with that, in that when Ole came in, you just wanted us to play some decent football for the rest of the season. I had no expectation of where we would finish, because I never thought we'd make up that ground. But then to play so well for those 11 games, maybe there's a couple more after that, and you start thinking, all right, yeah, okay, we're doing all right, we're back in that top 4 race. But then to nosedive so badly, I think I don't know whether that's what's in people's minds, is that, would you have took 6 when he took over? Yes, maybe. But what happened? What has happened in the past 2 or 3 months? Because I think people would have been in a position of going, well, actually 3rd was on at one point. Spurs are dropping points. Yeah. Everyone around us, nobody really wants. Still, who wants that 4th position? Arsenal have been poor, Chelsea have been poor. But yet they've then started to pick up the odd little result here, and we may as well be back where we were before Christmas, because the level of commitment from the players has been so bad. So I think that is something that sticks in my mind, and I think will be in a lot of fans' minds, is that yeah, you probably would have took 6 when Mourinho was there and Ole took over. But God, how bad have we been over the past couple of weeks? So bad.
Yeah, definitely a valid point. Maybe that was, in a lot of people's minds, the fact that we've been so poor recently, and that 3rd position was there on a plate for us. Well, let's move forward then. Recently, everybody, I'll be surprised if there's someone who doesn't know about this. #unfollow Man United gained a little bit of pace over the last few days. Guys, I'll come to you first, Martin. What were your thoughts when you first seen this #unfollow Man United trending, and people were talking about unfollowing the club? And what were your first thoughts on it, and how do you feel about it now?
It's too big of a beast. Yeah, it's a drop in the ocean. If Man United lose a couple of thousand Twitter followers, they'll gain 10,000 followers, the next week. All they need to do is put out a couple of tweets, start putting out things about kits, video, it's
player of the year.
Yeah, it's God, what a farce that is. I've still got the Man United account muted until after tonight, because I just couldn't bear to see any of those tweets. But I think, Man United is a global brand. So they reach millions upon millions of people across the world, whether it's on social media or not. I mean, you've got to remember, they've got their Instagram now, they've got their YouTube now, constantly bringing in people. So yes, it was an interesting movement to see, but in all honesty, it's such a financial behemoth, this club, that it's now got to a point where the football is secondary to it, and that I think that's what one of the big problems of the club is that it's not a football team anymore. It is just a money churning business, and it's now impacting the team, the football, the players, everyone on the board. You know, there's not enough footballing people in the club, so to try and get people to unfollow it, you know, good luck. You know, I've had the account muted. I didn't unfollow it. I didn't see what the point was going to be, because I would have followed it again in about 2 weeks' time. So,
Ash, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I actually did do a bit of reading into this as it was floating about, which was interesting, because I saw a lot of people completely dismiss it for no apparent reason and without realizing sort of what the motives were behind it. And I understand it, but I mean, as Martin said, it's unless something massive happens and there is some maybe widespread highlighting of the issue, and you know, a lot of the bigger accounts and the news outlets start reporting on it, I don't think it was going to gain enough traction to really make enough of a dent to have an impact. I mean, I'm all for it. Anything to, you know, to raise awareness against the Glazers and Woodward, and maybe to have some sort of impact. And I think I read a few things which was actually quite decent as well. Obviously, a lot of it was surrounding Ed Woodward and how he approaches sponsors and makes money. And due to their massive global appeal and the social media following, that's how they did a lot of their sponsorships, and you know, they'd be able to reach a widespread audience, and that's why Ed Woodward would like to brag his social media. So that was, I think, one of the main motives behind it. But another motive as well was raising awareness and bringing fans together, you know, and really showing them and giving fans more information and awareness on what the Glazers and Ed Woodward were doing to the club. Obviously, because, you know, you'd expect 99% of the fan base, well, I won't say 99%, but a large majority of the fan base to know what kind of operation the Glazers and Woodward are running at Manchester United. But obviously, there's probably a large amount that are completely oblivious to everything that's going on. So in that sort of thing, you know, bringing everyone together, raising awareness, I was all for it. But as Martin said, you know, 19 million followers on Twitter alone, and now the fact that they've started botting the account as well, which is very interesting. Just shows what's happened to the club, which is, it's so depressing. And
I mean, I'll be surprised if it's actually Man United, that the actual club, creating all these bots. I think it's got to be some individual somewhere, or some individual somewhere, because when Ed Woodward presents these stats to the investors, he doesn't use followers, he uses interactions.
Yeah.
So you don't get interactions from bots, I don't think, anyway. I think you just get a follow and that's it. But you know, the clubs that analyze these sort of things, and investors that have all their people involved as well, they'll look into this. And if Joe Blogs can look, oh yeah, look, there's 1,000 bots there, I'm pretty sure these investors and all these people can see that as well. So I'd be very surprised if it's the club that's doing that.
I mean, it's, yeah.
But it is
I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, that's just what. Yeah, I mean, it could be, but yeah, it is. It's massively depressing, everything that's going on, to be honest. But that's such is the beast, as Martin said. Such is the beast that is the machine at the moment. Just a money churning conglomerate, which is ridiculous.
When I first seen it, like yourselves, I thought, well, you know, I mean, it's a global company. You know, how's it going to affect anything? And also, I was thinking, well, you know, the Twitter account isn't monetized. They're not making any money from the Twitter account, you know. So I thought, what's the point? So I asked the question. I said, well, is there a point? And I had some people just saying, you know, at least it's something. And I'm thinking, well, what's this? Do you know what I mean? That's not a good enough reason to do it. Do you know what I mean? So I was asking the question. People were just saying, oh, just stop being negative. I thought, well, I'm not being negative. I just want to know why people are doing it.
Yeah.
And then one person tweeted me, said, read my pinned tweet. So I read his pinned tweet, and it said something about, like you said a moment ago, Ash, that Ed Woodward uses the social media stats in his conference calls and meetings with investors and sponsors, etc., etc. He uses it in player negotiations as well. He uses that reach to try and lure players in. So I thought, okay, that's just this guy writing it in a tweet. How do I know there's any truth to that? So I thought, right, let's get onto Google and type in Ed Woodward social media stats, meetings, just keywords, whacked it in, bam. First thing that come up was an article from, I can't remember, it was a broadsheet, Telegraph, I think, or Guardian, one of the two. And it had quotes in there from an investors meeting with Ed Woodward, and he's speaking about how much of a reach they have through social media, talking about interactions like 300, or was it 3 million or 300 million interactions in the space of X amount of years or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And then I thought, well, okay, so they do rely on social media. That is a big part of their investment strategy, or strategy to, to get investors interested. Social media is a huge aspect in any business. So I can at that point I understood why people were doing it. So then I thought, right, well, I'll unfollow. I joined in. I agreed with what they were doing. Yep. In my head, I kind of knew it's probably not going to amount to anything. It's probably not going to do anything. The news outlets have picked up on it. They've been writing about it. So it's been noticed in the media. So I thought, do you know what? I'll get involved. I'll unfollow as well. But again, like you two say, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference, because just purely because of the size of the company, size of the club. Another thing as well, and I did tweet about this as well, is people talking about a mass walkout in the Cardiff game. I've seen people saying on the 83rd minute, I don't know why they specified the 83rd minute, but they said a mass walkout, everyone just leave. And I'm thinking, well, you've already paid your money.
Yeah, exactly.
The money's already gone into the Glazers' pockets. What's the point? You buy a ticket. They don't care if you stay there for 1 minute or 91 minutes. You've already paid. So what's the point in a mass walkout? It's just ridiculous.
At 83 minutes as well, we've already been beaten. So
I think the significance of the 83 was something about 83 out of 90 is 7. Something of the 7 years that people are sick. I think it's something to do with that. I don't really remember. Something like that. Yeah.
Another thing I was saying as well, when I was having this conversation with these people on Twitter, I was saying, look, if like the biggest thing that you can do, in my opinion, because look, not buying tickets and turning up for games, boycotting the games isn't going to make a difference, because for every one person who doesn't go to a game, there'll be 100 people waiting to take their ticket.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So that's not going to work. The only thing really that can be done is mass protests inside and outside the stadium, which have been done. The green and gold protests years ago. It's all been done. Didn't work. It's not going to work now. Do you know what I mean? So
no, it's too much. They make too much money. 78,000 people in the stadium, or 76,000. The stadium capacity is a drop in the ocean with the amount of fans Man United have. We talk about the club will make it off the season tickets. They make it off the TV deals. I mean, Man United are streamed live everywhere. It is such there's just so much money involved that if you've got the fans protesting out the stadium, the other side of the world, you've got someone buying a Man United kit. Do you know what I mean? And isn't really bothered about what's going on in the football club. They just want a Man United kit. They might not even follow us week in, week out. We're in that bracket like Real Madrid and Barcelona. You can have fans who you couldn't even name the starting lineup, but they'll buy our merchandise. They'll buy into the club. So it's all these mass walkouts. The only thing that can impact the team is the performance on the pitch, because the worse we do, the worse the club's going to get. So it's almost like that thing where this is where I kind of wanted us to finish outside the top 6, because I kind of want us to have a season where we can't attract the biggest players. Ed Woodward can't go to players and say, "Oh, we'll get you 1 million followers if you come to Man United," because that's all I can picture in my head after what Ash has just said there. Touting for business and going, "Yeah, well, how many followers you got? 100,000. Well, we'll put that up to 1 million in a week when you sign for us." That's just embarrassing, really. So to me, we need to have a season where we're not at the forefront, and we're not chasing, these alleged superstars for £300,000 and £400,000 a week, paying them. We're such a broken club at the minute. So the worse we do off the pitch is it's kind of the better for us at the minute, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
The greater good.
As much as I want us to be successful in things, but if we get into the Champions League and get top 4, what does that mean to us? Oh, we'll have a bit more money to spend. We'll just keep rolling on in the same pattern until things change massively behind the scenes. This will just be a repeat on repeat for the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, I agree, definitely. Another thing, doing the rounds at the moment, more rumours of who could potentially fill the director of football role or sporting director, whatever you want to call it, technical director. There's so many names for it. It's essentially the same job. We've heard Rio Ferdinand's name. We've heard Van der Sar's name, ex-players. Obviously, Van der Sar could be a good candidate because he's got experience in the role. But most recently, Darren Fletcher.
I mean, what are we doing?
It's laughable, isn't it? I mean, Gary Neville hit the nail on the head in the post-match interview against Huddersfield.
Yeah.
It might not have been the post-match interview, but it was sometime after the Huddersfield game, and he was mentioning the likes of Rio Ferdinand and Darren Fletcher have been considered for the job, and he was saying, look, this is Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the football world. They've got lots of money. They need to be going after the best in the business, which is exactly what City done. This is Gary Neville's words. Exactly what City done. Went out there and got the best of the best, and look where they are now. That's exactly what Ed Woodward and the Glazers should be doing, is looking for the best of the best. So yeah, the fact that Darren Fletcher's name's even been mentioned, I don't know if there's any truth to that, but it's just laughable. Now, another name that's been mentioned, again, it's not somebody you would consider to be the best of the best, but it's not quite as laughable as Darren Fletcher. I'd like to get both of your thoughts on this one. Mike Phelan. Ash, I'll come to you first. What are your thoughts on Mike Phelan?
He's a coach. He's a very good coach. Has he done that role?
Well, he is currently the sporting director of the Australian club that he's contracted to at the moment, but he's only been doing that since July.
I think we need, as much. I love Mike Phelan. I love the fact that he's back at the club, but as you're saying, we should be at the forefront of having like a director of football. We should have, is it Man City? Man City have got more than one, or they've got 3. I'm sure they've got 3 people involved in the recruitment side of things. Liverpool have it. I mean, why have we not had that? I know obviously when David Gill went and Alex Ferguson went, but what have we been doing for 6 years? Ed Woodward. Do you think if you asked Ed Woodward to, right now, what's more important, money or the team doing well? I'd be interested to know what his answer would be, because from evidence, it's money.
Do you know what? I don't know how to think or feel about Ed Woodward. Sometimes I feel sorry for him. Sometimes I think sometimes I genuinely do think he wants the club to do well, and he wants the players playing good football, and he wants to have good players at the club. But sometimes I think his hands are a bit tied by those above him, and obviously he's got to dance to their tune. But then he come out and do something really stupid, and then you just think, what the hell is he doing? Like obviously with player recruitment, he's in charge of that essentially, and obviously the recruitment hasn't been good over the years. But I don't know if his hands are tied a bit by those above him. I have no idea. But I don't know. If you asked him that question, yeah, I'd be interested to see what. I mean, obviously he's going to say the football, but
yeah.
If you were, just chilling out, in your lounge with him, your good mates, and you asked him that question, what would he say? That'd be interesting.
But it's interesting as well, because we're doing things so right with our youth teams. You know what I mean? We've still got excellent academy players. So
Yeah.
there's still people in the club who can recognise talent and bring them in. But it's just what's happening when it comes to our first team. There just seems to be this cut off where it's, money seems more important. And then I also question the fact when Ollie was saying he's going to play more youth bring more players into the fold. You could have done that. You could have done that at Christmas when he first came in, and no one would have questioned it.
Yeah.
And I thought he would have done it in the last couple of games when we haven't had that much to play for. I know we've still been able to get top 4, but I probably still would have rather seen some youth play than some of the players that are in there. So, do you think there's any direction from higher up which will say no? You have to play these. You have to play these players because there may be a financial impact if fans around the world aren't seeing them, or we've got people travelling from all over the world to come to Old Trafford aren't going to see some of these players that they've paid to come and see.
What do you reckon, Ash?
In terms of players that have to be able to play, I don't think so. I mean, I hope not. There was talks about Sanchez having some sort of clause in his contract, but I think that was more monetary based than he sort of had to play. I think he got more money when he played than less money if he was on the bench or something like that. But I wouldn't have thought so. I wouldn't have thought that a manager's hands would be tied, even at a club like a Man United, where we know the owners and whatnot are that sort of people. But I don't think they would tie a manager's hands like that and say you have to play this person over this person. I just can't see it. As fickle and everything as you know the club is and all sorts. I don't think they go to that extent. That being said, I mean, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago and maybe touched upon it last week in terms of the youth players. I think we would have seen more youth players if we hadn't have done so well when Ollie first came in. I think if we'd have struggled to be more cohesive as a team, I thought if we'd maybe struggled to get the results, I think we'd have seen more youth. But being as we did so well and we got ourselves into contention so quickly for top 4, I think Ollie's hands were tied and sort of relied more on experience to try and grind us out a top 4 place, which didn't come to fruition.
And you can understand that as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a results-driven business. He wanted to get the job full-time, and the best way for him to do that was to keep getting results and to try and get us into the top 4, which is completely understandable. However, that being said, there was a time around where we got a lot of injuries where he could have played more youth players. Certain games stick out. Certainly against Huddersfield, there was a chance to get some youngsters out. And I think there's no more excuses for Cardiff. Nothing to play for. Well, 5th place to play for, really, if Arsenal end up dropping points. But he's got to bring you through. I mean, he's said on multiple occasions, and I keep reiterating in what he says, he said they are ready. In quotation marks, they are ready to play. Well, show us that they're ready. And as you said, Martin, I think that, you know, the academies, the under-18s, the under-23 squads, they are absolutely stacked with talent. Players ready to make the step up to the first team. Not every week, but, you know, certainly chipping in with performances and minutes here and there. And I just think we need someone with enough guts to do that. Again, it is a results-driven business. You know, if you come under fire or you don't pick up points, or maybe a youngster costs you the game, I mean, you are going to come under criticism, but we need someone with a strong enough character to go, do you know what? This is United DNA. We put our faith in young players, and if it happens, it happens. Is Ollie the man to do that? I hope so. We don't know for sure, but yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting pre-season, especially if we finish 6th, because I'm sure that means that we play the Europa League qualifiers in July at some point. So it's going to be even sort of a shorter pre-season for us, and I'm sure we'll see some youngsters feature there.
Yeah, no, I would agree. What were your thoughts on Mike Phelan?
I love Mike. I really do. And in terms of technical director of football, however you want to call it, I mean, he has got a little bit of experience. He's the right type of character, I suppose, but I'd rather keep him closer to the squad, in my opinion. I think he's better on the ground. I think he's better as a coach, as a tactician, and as a people person as well. He knows people. He loves working with people, and I'd rather keep him closer to the squad. If it's a toss-up between him and Darren Fletcher, though, there's no question for me. But then who fills the void coming into the coaching staff, which is another question there. So for me, keep him next.
I think that's another, you know, like with obviously Darren Fletcher and like Rio Ferdinand, doesn't that just like scream exactly what's wrong with our club? It's just bringing in a name. You know, it's not bringing in someone who knows how to do that job. It's bringing in a name. I mean, if you had Rio Ferdinand in that position, do you think he would be able to stay off Twitter and talk nonsense constantly? I mean, I love Rio Ferdinand. I loved him as a player, but I mean, God, I can't watch him as a pundit. He's you're in your late 30s, man. You
Yeah.
just he still talks like a child, and oh God, when I don't know if you boys seen the obviously the first leg of the Barcelona Liverpool game and his post match breakdown of Messi and stuff. It was like, felt like I was in a school playground. It was like,
Yeah.
it was just, can you imagine him when he was trying to recruit players?
Yeah.
Just, it just takes off that level of professionalism, and it's just a name to throw out there. The media was all over it last week when that sort of rumor broke and about Rio Ferdinand being there, and it just spats exactly what's wrong with our club.
I do like what. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say I did like that post-match interview. Well, I say that review, whatever it was, of Gary Neville, and everything that he said. I mean, I love listening to Gary Neville speak anyway. I think he's really calculated with what he says, and he's very knowledgeable. And I loved everything that he said regarding United. The fact that they're going to entrust so much responsibility with just an ex-player, and about us wanting the best in class and things like that. But the best in class isn't always available. But I mean, and you do say, chucking a name out there, Martin, but it's not an Eric Cantona, it's a Darren Fletcher. Do you know what I mean? So it's you want something to inspire you. Don't get me wrong. I know Darren Fletcher is very intelligent and very calm, and he is very widely respected actually in some United circles from what I'm hearing. But again, he's going to be working with players and agents and things like that. I mean, is that the first face of Manchester United you want to greet? No disrespect, obviously, Darren Fletcher, but we need someone who's been there, who's done it, who's got experience, who's got years under their belt in some capacity around a similar position. And yeah, it's the nostalgia, that nostalgia surrounding everything at the moment is gone a bit overboard. I mean, what we're going to do? What we're going to do next? I don't know. Put Sir Bobby in charge of social media. I don't know. It's a bit over the top at the moment, and I think we need to start focusing on getting back to our roots and appointing people who are right for the position, not just because they played for the club.
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement. It should be somebody with a lot of experience, somebody who's been in the job for a long time, knows what he's doing, has a good track record. Not somebody who's just a name. Definitely not. Up next then for Manchester United, final game of the season. Ollie finishing where it started with a game against Cardiff. Can we replicate that performance and scoreline? We're in exactly the same situation, really, when you think about it. That first game came off the back of a poor run against Cardiff. The last game again against Cardiff, we're on a poor run. Ash, take away the preview.
Well, I can tell you one thing: we're not going to see the same 11.
Well, I should hope not.
That is for sure. So yeah, going into Cardiff, again, it's very similar to the Huddersfield game in terms of opposition. Cardiff, they have been confirmed as being relegated now, haven't they? Looking at their last couple of games, I mean, lost to Palace 3-2, lost to Fulham 1-0, lost to Burnley 2-0, lost to City 2-0, lost to Chelsea 2-1, and then 6 games back was their last win, a 2-0 win against West Ham, which is impressive when you consider the way West Ham have been playing recently. So it's another one of those, been conceding, not ridiculous amounts of goals, but they're conceding near enough every game. Not scoring too many, but chipping in now and again. You look at their squad. I think, is it Camarasa? He's their top goal scorer and top assist. I think 5 goals, 4 assists in the Premier League, which is 5 goals. It looks pretty abysmal on paper, but again, there's nothing you can take for granted following that Huddersfield performance. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, it is sort of a nice way to finish it off, where Ollie started, in his big time management, also where he started coming into United. I fully expect a reaction. I said this against Huddersfield, and I was wrong, but I think we'll see a lot more changes. And there's been a lot made of this in the press over the last 24 hours, with some pictures of a lot of the youngsters training with the first team. I'd like to think that there's going to be a lot of changes and we're going to put our faith in some of the youth team, but I'm not overly confident. I think he'll start with a pretty strong, as I say, I use the term strong very loosely, strong 11, an experienced 11, to try and get us into that 5th position, which I think we'd probably prefer if Arsenal drop points away at Burnley. But yeah, I think it's going to be a different performance. What do you reckon, Paul or Martin? Any one of you? Are we gonna see a better performance than what we did against Huddersfield?
Go on, Martin. You go first.
We'll see a better performance. We're playing at home, aren't we?
We are.
Yep.
So it's last home game of the season. The fans will still be up for it. You know, you can never discredit the Man United fans. But I think he should ring a couple of changes. I don't, Luke Shaw had a poor game against Huddersfield. I don't want to see Ashley Young in that squad. I'd really like to see Mason Greenwood. I'd really like to see Chong or Gomez in midfield. One of the two of them. And maybe some of the youth on the bench, but I think you'll still go with that sort of spine. I think we'll see David De Gea, we'll see Pogba, and we'll see the Rashford or Lukaku up top. That we'll see that spine in there. I see us winning the game, but I don't see it being overly entertaining. I think we'll just want to get the game won, win the last game of the season, get the season over and done with. We've got nothing, we can't do any worse than 6. Wolves are on 57 points, we're on 66. The only thing that we've got there is obviously you've got Arsenal. Arsenal could drop points and we could finish 5th. That's about as best as we're going to do. But either way, we're in the Europa League position. So I just want us to go out, with a bit of a bang. Give us something to enjoy at the end of the season. If it's anything like that Huddersfield game, I'm just going to want to forget about football until pre-season starts. I'll just look forward to the England Nations League final. But it's just play the youth, get some of them in there, and just play without fear. Show what we did in January when we played Cardiff and we played those games. I'm still struggling to understand what happened with that, where those performances went, and how it got back to how we were before Christmas. But yeah, I'll go 2-0. 2-0 win, Man United.
Okay, Paul, we're going to win.
I think we're going to win. I mean, we've been looking at. Well, I say that we've been looking at form with every preview we do. And one thing we've learned, I think, Ash, over the last couple of months is there's no point even bothering.
No.
We looked at the form of Huddersfield and we thought this game should be a 2 or 3-0 at the very least.
Yeah.
Look what happened. And I think it's safe to say we were hardly surprised by the end of the game. So there's no point looking at Cardiff's form. It's no point even looking at the squad. Looking at potential players we need to watch out for, because when we looked at the Huddersfield squad, there wasn't a single name in there where we thought, that player's going to cause us problems. And to be fair, they didn't really cause us that many problems. They had a few shots which David De Gea had to save. But again, we didn't win the game, did we? When you look at Cardiff squad, they've got their highest goal scorer, like you say, 5 goals. Bobby Reed, ex-Bristol City player, Victor Camarasa, both on 5 goals. But then you've got 5 or 6 players who are on 4 goals, 3 goals. So the goals are spread amongst all of them. So they all like to chip in. I think that's really the only thing really we need to watch out for is there's not one single player in that team who are capable of scoring goals. There's about 6 or 7 of them. They just don't score many. But this is Man United they're playing against. They could quite easily go and score 2 or 3. So with that said, I do still think we should win the game. And I think if Ollie makes wholesale changes, we've been saying over the last sort of couple of months that perhaps when he is making 5 or 6 changes per game, that is, he has done that a few times. That is part of part of what's wrong. Too many changes can have a negative effect. But I think with this game, he has to do it, and he has to. He did say after the last game, this is the last time you've seen a lot of these players. I don't know if that's a nod to say, that last game of the season, there's going to be a lot of changes. We're going to see a lot of youth coming through. We've seen them pictures of them training, but let's not be fooled by that because they train with the first team quite a lot. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We've seen them training with the first team and then not a single one of them named on the bench.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that's going to be different this time around. I'm confident we'll win.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident. I mean, I think last game of the season in front of Old Trafford, if anything, the players, haven't shown up in the past couple of weeks or months. Hopefully, they're going to give us something to cheer and sign off on for this season to put it behind us. Who have you got in your starting 11, Martin?
I think De Gea will start. I can't see him dropping him now. I think if he was going to drop him on that poor form, it would have been 2 or 3 games ago. So I would say De Gea start. I'd like to see Dalot, Smalling, Lindelof. I think Shaw will start, but I think after his performance, I don't think he deserves to against Huddersfield. I can see McTominay, Pogba, maybe Chong, maybe. And then I think we might see Lingard, Rashford, and Greenwood.
Interesting.
That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Interesting. Paul, have you got any changes different?
Yeah, I've gone even more extreme than that. The back five is exactly the same as Martin. So David De Gea, Diogo Dalot, Chris Smalling, Victor Lindelof, and Luke Shaw as the back five. I've got my 4-3-3. So I think we need to really go at them with an attacking formation, especially at home. Last game of the season. Give the fans something, please, for this last game of the season. I've gone with a midfield of Herrera and Pogba with Garner holding.
I like it.
And then my front three, Chong, Greenwood, and Gomez.
I love it.
I'm just thinking, look, play Lingard, he's not going to do anything. Lukaku, he can't control the ball. Play Rashford, he's just going to run around and take ridiculous shots from 80 yards out with the Ronaldo technique and bury it in row Z or kick it out towards the corner flag because he just can't do it.
I was talking about this with my cousin while I was in Hamburg last weekend. What is it with Rashford? Why can he not kick the ball at a normal pace? Even when he crosses the ball, he kicks the ball as hard as he can. It's like watching Valencia of 10 years ago. If you remember Valencia when he was playing right wing in his first season under Fergie, he could not kick a football properly. He was just driven. He's just driven as hard as he could. But it's even worse with Rashford. There's just no control over it. Just balloons. Yeah. I mean, him on free kicks is just, God, horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
Now, my thinking behind putting Garner, Chong, Greenwood, and Gomez all in the starting lineup is, though you can say about making wholesale changes and players not used to playing with each other, but those four have played with each other a lot. So if you put them all in together with Pogba and Herrera, I think that could be a positive thing to do. You'll have your Lingards, Rashford, Martial, Lukaku, Mata, Matic, Fred, all those sorts of players. Have them on the bench. You know what I mean? So at least if they don't play, they can go and do a lap of honour and say their goodbyes. At the end of the match. But I really do want to see those youngsters start the game, not come on for 5 minutes at the end when it's 0-0 or we're losing 1-0 or only winning by a goal. Do you know what I mean? Let them start. Give them an hour. Do you know what I mean? 70 minutes or whatever. Just let them start for 2-0 down at half time. Then take them off. But do you know what I mean? I just want, it's the last game of the season. If they're going to do it for anyone, do it for us.
Yeah, exactly. Give the fans
nothing to play for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
5th or 6th, what's the difference? Do you know what I mean? If we have to play an extra qualifying round, if we don't get through the extra qualifying round of the Europa League, we're playing some Bulgarian 3rd division team. Well, obviously we're 3rd division, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Then we don't deserve to be in the Premier League or in the Championship. 5th or 6th don't make a difference. There's nothing to play for. We're not going to finish 7th. Just do it for the fans. Do it for the youth players as well. Do it for them. If they're going to be the ones that promoted to the first team next year, I mean, you might only see 2 or 3 of them. A couple of them might go out on loan. But if you're going to be promoting these players to the Premier League to the first team next year, give them a run out now.
Yeah,
whilst there's nothing to play for.
I only giggled because I've put exactly the same 4 youth players in. I've got exactly the same front 3, Chong, Greenwood, and Gomez. I've also got Garner in the midfield, but I've put him alongside McTominay and Pogba. And then I think The back four is slightly different because I think with everything surrounding it and a cheeky picture that he posted today at some point, I think Antonio Valencia is going to start.
Shit, I forgot about that.
I think he's back. I think he's near enough. I think he's fit enough to start.
I'd rather him over Young.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
And I saw he's got something on his boots. I think 10 years or something or other that I don't know. So I think we'll see Valencia start at right back.
I think I'd quite like that. I think I would.
I'd rather him over Young. At least he's fairly solid defensively and he's got some strength on him.
Sorry to butt in again, but one thing you can say about Valencia is that he is one of those few players that will give 110%, 110% of the time.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
He's always been like that.
Yeah, he has. He's always been a terrier, isn't he? I think he's going to start at right back. Shaw was abysmal against Huddersfield, so maybe Diogo Dalot at left back, although I'm not particularly... I mean, I'd love to see...
I do not like Dalot left back. I've seen him play there once, and I thought, never do that again.
I'd like to see Puigmal start because he's in the first team, but...
That's the player I was trying to think about.
Now Puigmal, yeah. He's a midfielder, actually, but he's been playing at fullback for a lot of the season.
Okay.
I mean, I'd love it, but I don't know if we go that risky in defence. Yeah, it might happen, but yeah, I'd love to see Ethan Laird, but he doesn't look like he's in and around the squad because he's had a fairly decent season as well. But I'd love to see some of the youngsters in. I really would, and I think we need to. I'm going 4-0, by the way.
Oh wow!
We're gonna score. We're gonna score a few goals. I'm telling you, if we put some youngsters out, they are gonna batter Cardiff.
I think Martin, you said 2-0, didn't you?
Yeah.
I think I'll go the same. I'm thinking 2-0. After saying that I thought we were going to beat Huddersfield 3-0, and after what happened, Cardiff are better than Huddersfield. I know we're at home and all that, but yeah, I'm going to go 2-0.
Interesting.
Should we take it over to Twitter then?
We can indeed. So yeah, as usual, this afternoon the tweet went out asking what you'd like to discuss. I also put a cheeky little bit on the end. Try to avoid transfer speculation, please. Just because we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Top of the shop then, Mr. Southwick. Andrew. He says, what are the top 5 things that need to happen this summer? It can be anything from players that need to be brought in to a director of football and everything in between. Try and keep them as realistic as possible. So realistically, what needs to happen this summer?
Well, the first thing that comes to my head, I'll go one, then we'll just go round one at a time or whatever. Yeah, but the first thing I think needs to happen is, whether it's Ollie that does it, well, it will be Ollie that does it, or Phelan or whoever, the core values of the club and what it means to play for Man United, what it means to wear that badge, not the name on the back, the badge on the front, what that means, that needs to be re-embedded back into the players soon as pre-season starts. Forget doing it now. Let players come and go. Soon as pre-season starts, that needs to be drilled back into the players again before the next season starts. That's the very first thing in my head that I'd be wanting to do. If I was that manager, I would have a fucking massive United badge put up on the wall, and I'll just point straight to it, and I'll say, that is what you're here for. Okay. That's basically the first thing I think needs to be done.
Okay, I'll follow that then. So as soon as they've done that, if there's any players that don't like it, out the door. Yeah. So that's number 2, clear out. Get rid of this absolute shower of garbage.
Well, hopefully that'll be done before pre-season.
Hopefully, but you never know knowing this. We'll probably end up giving new contracts to half of them. But
who's top of your lists for clear out? 3 players who you think should immediately go.
I can only have 3. Can I have 10?
Phil Jones, Ashley Young. Crikey.
And the Nemanja Matic for me as well, probably.
Lukaku.
Yeah.
See, I'll go Young, Jones, Pogba.
Controversial. I can see why though.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Controversial. So Young and Jones, I think, is a general consensus amongst the fans. So that's number 3. So Martin, what was after the clear out, or amongst that, what's the third thing that's going to happen? needs to happen?
We have to get the recruitment right. So if that encompasses bringing in a director of football, Ed Woodward needs to move back. He needs to move out of the footballing side of the club. We need to find someone who knows how to do that job, and I don't even know what that job means. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know what that is. I couldn't even explain it. But Ed Woodward is not the man to do that. He's had 6 years at it. He's spent far too big on players who have been towards the back end of their careers, or he's bought big name players, spent loads of money on them. And I think the recruitment needs to be right. You know, if we've got 3 or 4 players from the youth setup who are ready, get them in pre-season and keep them in. If we're going to lose players, fine, let them go. We don't need to go out and replace them. So I think we've got to use this transfer window properly. I think I'd tweeted this a couple of days ago, is that it's going to take us for 2 to 4 years just to even get to a point where we could start challenging. You know, we are so far behind the clubs above us that just going out and spending 300 to 400 million on players is not the answer. Bringing in players on high wages who don't understand what it's like to play, they don't know what it is to play for this club. So if you've got players there in the youth ready, willing to give it their all, I mean, Scott McTominay, as much stick as he's got, he seems that he wants to play. You know, he wants to do his best that he can for the club. So get the recruitment right, bring in 1 or 2 players, but I don't think we should spend hundreds of thousands, millions on players that we would just be signing because they're a name and that they want to use Manchester United as a way of making themselves bigger. We've done this in the past and it doesn't work. So we have to stop that structure of the recruitment in the club.
Yep, agreed.
Yep, 100% agree. So we're looping back around then. So that's 3. 4th? It's going to be difficult now.
Renovate stadium.
Well, do you know what? I think okay, fine. But I think
maybe that wouldn't happen in the summer. But
class Martins is kind of 2, I suppose, because one of them was definitely moving Ed Woodward from the footballing aspect of his position back to the sort of management and the money making, that sort of thing. And then another one was correct recruitment. So last one, renovations to the stadium.
Yeah.
Definitely needs to happen. So there you go, Andrew. There's 5 things that need to happen. Moving on, Ike Aguala, interesting question. Is it possible to get someone on the show who can explain the finances of the club into detail and how the wage structure and transfers are influenced by it? And you replied, Paul, saying it's a great idea and we'll see if we can get someone soon as, really. But yeah, because I don't think we're qualified to sort of discuss
No, we're not. And a lot of people go on about, the money that the Glazers take and the money that's spent and, that they've taken $1 billion out of the club. And no one, I don't think anybody really fully understands exactly how it works. And I think it would be good if that information could be fed out and people had more of an idea of what actually goes on behind the scenes. But actually getting someone to reveal that is probably going to be almost impossible.
I think when does the financial reports come out? Is it just before the start of the season?
I'm not entirely sure.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because what you tend to find is someone like James Ducker from the Times, and when they come out, they generally give a good breakdown of exactly what the club has made versus what it's spent. The one incredible thing about Man United is that for as much money as we spend, and the Glazers take out the club for their own debts, we still turn a profit. Yes, we're a club in debt, but it's not really talked about as much. We're still in the top 3 richest clubs in the world when those reports come out. So I don't, to understand what the transfer policy is and what the structure is and things like that, I think a lot of it comes down to what we've talked about in this whole podcast about how those players will influence Manchester United as a brand, as opposed to how those players will improve the squad. I think there's too high a percentage put on the fact that you bring this big name player in, we're going to get X amount of shirt sales, we're going to attract X amount of fans from that country,
Yeah.
I think that's been going on a lot longer than we think. I mean, Park Ji-sung, great player, loved him. But the fact that if you think at a time, we signed Park, we had who was the guy who went to Stoke, their centre forward.
From Ivory Coast. Was it the Ivory Coast? What was his name?
Oh, I can't remember.
I want to say Diouf, but it's not Diouf, was it?
Mambaram Diouf.
Yeah, Diouf. We bought another
Dong. We had Dong.
We bought
as
Dong.
Well. Yeah.
We signed. There was a period where we signed some players. Yeah, Kagawa. We signed players. They played a couple of games, and then we never saw them again. Kagawa should have done way better than
because he was a decent player.
He's a decent player, but there was a point where we were signing players, and you could see that there was financial sponsorship in it. There was something going on in that sense, because it was almost like we didn't even know that they were getting signed. All of a sudden we just had these players that had been plucked out of nowhere. I mean, there was no big announcement for Diouf and things like that. So I think there's something in the structure which we probably will never know, but I think there is definitely an influence in terms of who that player is and what they're going to bring to the club financially from a football point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. Great insight there. I think it is a good idea to get someone on who can, sort of go over all that. But as you quite rightly say, if that information's already out there, then it's just a case of doing a bit of research, I guess, and maybe we can do it ourselves, Ash.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But yeah. Next.
Yeah, last one then to finish us off. Put us in a bit of a somber mood. Michael Stow, how did those two exciting, in brackets, horrible Champions League comebacks make you feel about the effort levels of our team? Are they tired from actually having to play the last 5 months, or just disinterested?
Disinterested.
I think, just addressing the first part of his tweet there, Michael, I feel you. I mean, I didn't actually watch the Liverpool game, purely because it's Liverpool, but I did watch the second half of the Spurs game. And just from watching that second half of the Spurs game, watching both sides, Ajax and Spurs, and just how much fight they had in them, and just the quality of the players, and it almost wept.
The Spurs, as much as the Spurs comeback was better than Liverpool when I watched both games, and the Spurs comeback for me was better than Liverpool's.
Barca are garbage away from home, though.
Yeah, we should have. We should have. I mean, we should have beat Barca 1 or 2-0.
Exactly. They only beat us because of an own goal.
Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, I do feel what he means when he says exciting / horrible, because it was exciting to watch. But then again, you look at it and you think, come on, we used to be like that once upon a time. I think when you think about the effort levels of our team, I think it's a combination of everything: disinterest, exhaustion, unrest. I think there's a bit of everything that sort of contributed to the way that we've been playing.
I mean, he says about the exciting, horrible, and I think nothing sums up those two games for me. Is the two standout performers from both games. In the Liverpool game, it was Fabinho. I think he had a superb game and controlled Messi. Again, a player that probably we could have signed. There was a lot of talk about it, but obviously he wouldn't be a commercial enough signing for us. And the second one was Lucas Moura. There was a massive, massive speculation about us signing Lucas Moura for, what was it, 25 million, where he was surplus to requirements at PSG. Yeah. We needed a wide forward.
Yep, I remember that.
With pace. Remember that, and
we were in for him before PSG got him as well.
Yeah,
he was heavily linked to us then.
Yeah, I remember that, and it was people scoffed. Well, I don't say a lot of people scoffed, but some people scoffed, and I think I read an article somewhere of one of the coaches inside Manchester United, and I think either a coach and did some scouting that he took a list of players. It might have been I think it was to Ed Woodward. It might have been to some other people as well within the club. And whoever it was, Ed Woodward dismissed the players as being not United quality, even though there was a few on there that were, you look at it now. I think one of them, was De Ligt from Ajax. Another one, I think it might have been another player. It might have been Van der Beek or something from Ajax as well. I can't remember. And they were quashed straight away because they weren't sort of appropriate for Manchester United. So I mean, there could be some truth to everything that's going on surrounding commercial signings and whatnot. But it does make you sick. But on the flip side, those players, in my opinion, if you put Manchester United in a semi-final there, granted, I don't think we would have done as well as Spurs or Liverpool given the quality of our squad, but I think the energy levels in the fight would have been a lot more just because of the occasion. But yeah, I don't think we'd have come off quite as successful as they did.
No.
That's it.
Excellent. Well, that wraps that up then. So let's wrap the podcast up. Martin, thank you for joining us once again. Hopefully we'll have you on again in the not too distant future.
Thank you very much, and let's hope we finish the season well on the weekend. Last question: who wins the league?
City. Please. We don't need Liverpool winning the double because they're already going to win the Champions League.
For the love of all that is holy, for
please.
the sake of mankind,
I
hope City.
No, do you know what?
I'm going to say it differently. I'm going to say I hope Liverpool don't win the league.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But do you know? I hope that is everything kicking off at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's usually the same time, isn't it?
You could even have like a repeat of the City Man United game.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Because Liverpool could win game finish, and then City still be playing. So. It's going to be pretty. Sunday's going to be, as much as I'm a Man United fan at the end of the day, but we're nowhere near that level. So it is going to be an interesting watch as a neutral. And yes, I do hope Liverpool don't win the league.
I hope Liverpool win that game convincingly, and I hope that the City game is delayed. It's delayed, right? And City are losing in the 91st minute, and Liverpool fans go mental, and then Aguero scores twice. Snaps. I love that. But yeah, I'll take City winning the league. Like, yeah, it's not that I want City to win the league; it's I want Liverpool to lose the league, which is exactly what you said.
Yeah. Martin, did you want to give out your Twitter details?
Yeah, you can follow me at Martin H Peart.
And you can, Ash, do you want to give out your details?
Yeah, it's Ash Boyo, ASHBOIO.
And you can follow myself at Paul Gardiner LP. Also follow the United Stand Talking Manchester United podcast account at United Stand Pod. As you know, the podcast is also on YouTube as well. So if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe and drop us a comment. Whilst you're there, follow Red Bearded Red. That's Andrew Southwick, a Man United fan. Great channel. And also Kevin Ashford's Van Cam. Always a brilliant watch that. We will be back next week, hopefully, and I'm praying for this, that we're going to have some positivity in next week's podcast. Martin, do you want to join us next week as well?
I'll try my very best if I can.
Cool. We'll try and get a few people on if we can. Not too many, obviously, because the podcast ended up going on for about 3 hours. But yeah, we will be back next week for the final. It won't be the final podcast of the season because we will do a season review the week after as well, I would imagine. But yeah, be sure to tune in. Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week.